You're listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. Wepppaaaaa, what up, man? It's your boy Al Mega, and I'm back. And that's right, it's a hot one tonight. Let me tell you, we got some dope creators in his house. But before I bring them back, and actually return creators, I spoke to them. Wow, in August of 2022 when book one was out. But wait a minute. Wait, I'll tell you in a minute what it is. Let me introduce my big homie over here. Big Bracy, fellow Crusaders in the building. What's poppin', big homie? How you doing?
Hey man, I'm so glad to be a part of this one. I didn't get the pleasure of talking with Mr. Brian Michael Bendis last time.
Hey, how dare you say the names ahead of me? How dare you with these guests, you must say. With these guests. How dare you? Anyway, you know what? Now you blew it up. Let me bring him into the building. That's right. We got the big legend in the house. It's Double B. I'm so it's B&B, Double B, Mr. Brian Bendis, and the big homie as well, Double A, Andrea, Lima Araujo.
Hello. God, I missed that energy.
Great about you is this is the energy me and Andre usually talk to each other with.
Yeah, that's right.
You're coming. That's it.
Nobody gives you an intro like Al does. Nobody.
I love it.
It's beautiful.
I love you guys. You're amazing creators. You know, I had them, like I said, back in Double Deuce, 2022, talking about book one. And now the homies dropped book two, Abrams Books once again. I mean, oh my God, the middle of the saga, if you will. Oh, and it's effing gorgeous, and I love it. You know, we're gonna drop down into this right now and know what's going on. So, before Bracy jump onto the scene, because I know his brain was tickled when he had the opportunity to check out the amazing of this book. Now, can you give us? I'll start with Brian right here. Can you give us an overview of what readers can expect from Phenomena Book 2 compared to the first installment?
Well, somehow, for people who've seen Andre's work and seen book one, somehow Andre topped himself with book two. It has been the hardest part of the whole creation of this book is that from the very first pages of book two, he hit the ground running so hard because the book one, we came at it with everything we have. But by the end of the book, there's a confidence in our collaboration. There's an extra level of, oh, it worked. It's working. We got reaction from fans. Like we know it was working. So by starting the second volume, Andre was just on fire. And but from the very first pages, I was like, oh, the hardest part is not being able to share this with people till the book is done. So this week has been just glorious. It's just been like we were doing some signings and launch events for the book. And having people have read the first volume and coming at it to find out what happens next. And that was literally, I couldn't wait to tell Andre, literally the first person that came up to us this week was like, oh my God, I'm so glad there's another volume. I'm dying to know what happens. I'm like, yeah, it's all you ever want. That's all you've ever wanted is to create something new from scratch that no one asked for. And then somebody gives a shit at the end. That's the best part of the whole thing.
Absolutely. You hooked them like a fish. And Andre, what was your approach to this book too? Because, now you're on fire. Because I agree with Bendis. You know what I mean? Salute and hail Araujo art. Because let me tell you, at this level, brother. ¿Qué pasó? Let me know. Where you went into?
Muchas gracias. So what happened was, like Brian said, I think there was a confidence in our work. Like we kind of knew what we were doing now. We knew the rules of the world that we have created and that we developed in volume one. So once we get to volume two, we had a story to tell and we had the tools to tell it right away from the get-go. While in the first volume, we had to make those tools as we were making our path. So I think that's what transpires, that frees your mind to sometimes to more technical aspects of the work, like for Brian to polish dialogues in a way that he was still, crafting in the first one, how each voice really sounds like. For me, also the same thing, freed from this thing of having to create designs every page and now being on a more stable foundation, so you can create. It's funny because in one side, like part of the creation is done, but I think that frees you up for more creation instead of closing you, which is, some people might think that always with a blank page you can get the most creative, but I don't think that's always true. I think that's fun sometimes to have a completely blank page, but I think that some other times when you have set rules, you can really also explore things with an assurance that you cannot when you have a blank page. So I think that's what you get in book 2. You have creators that are a bit more comfortable with the world that they created and with the rules, so we get to create more.
Now we've Andre, we've broken the number one rules that we came on a podcast and didn't exactly describe exactly what we're talking about. So this happens all the podcasts I listen to. Like actors come on, they start talking about the movie like anyone knows what the hell you're talking about. So Phenomena is a book series that you and I do for Abrams Comics Art, and it's about 3 travelers, 2 children, Bolden and Matilda, who are kind of lost souls traveling with a creature named Spike, who's kind of like an uncle, kind of guardian character. And the 3 of them, they're lost souls of this new phenomena. It's our world. But something happened years ago. Not apocalypse, but something we think a little more interesting, a little more undefinable, and you have to kind of define it as you walk through it. So book 1, we got to introduce the world. The characters met each other. They had a big adventure with a big giant win at the end of it. And it basically set the table for them to now help each other through the phenomena. And in book 2, this is Matilda's story. She's the young woman from the first book that they meet, and they return with her to her home that she ran away from, which is called Velicia Verona, which is, we've discovered, is kind of like the London area, but has been completely redesigned by Andre and rediscovered by the phenomena. And she returns there to discover why she ran away and what has happened to that part of the world, which is in itself very different from what happened to the part of the world we read in the first book. So not only do we get to discover more, we get to travel more, we get to go deeper inside the mystery of the phenomena, and that is the story of the second volume. And believe it or not, what's really cool for us, me and Andre, is that this is a 3-volume series. Oof. And the 3rd volume is already drawn. It is being lettered as we speak. So if we're coming at you with a little more pep in our step, it's that we have climbed a mountain for years together, got to the top, and not only did it, we're able to high-five each other with, we did it together. And that's... You mean
literally, finally, in person, physical high five.
Yeah, it is. It is a beautiful. Yeah, we've never met. We've never been in the same room together. Yeah. That's the other thing too. We're through the pandemic and all that. We've made these books together. So one day we will see each other in person. But yeah, it's all done by the magic of Zoom.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is magical how 2 amazing creators could get together and create such a phenomenal book. Hey, no pun intended. About phenomenal, but. All right,
no, pun intended.
Go ahead, Bracy. I'll give you a question right there.
Well, I mean, just hearing the art for volume 3 is already complete. I'm looking over this, and I'm just astounded by the amount of work that's in these pages. I was like, oh, well, it's going to be another 2-3 years before we get volume 3, and to hear it done is already so exciting.
Being lettered as we speak.
I mean, because I'm just going to dive into the art side. You guys, if you haven't seen volume 1, and I haven't, this is my first exposure to this. I'm an instant fan. And the work that Andre has done, that he's put on the page here, it's like looking at Ultimo's Akira. It's like looking at Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball Z in a way that I see some manga influences, but I also it's got the tremendous detail of like a Jeff Darrow, and the crowd scenes are insane. That's one thing that drives me crazy, is having to draw like multitudes of people, and you seem to handle it with ease here. And of course, there's the fantasy aspect of this world reminds me of the beautiful landscapes and cultures created by Mobius. It's just I can't say enough about how startling this art is, and it's like each page is something I just kind of want to frame up. And
you know what, Tracy? You're teasing these people about these pages. Is what I had to bring this up. First of all, let's discuss this cover. gorgeous. And that eyeball thing is one of the most freakiest things in this
Well, here's
darn
crazy.
book.
Talking about where it's from, and that's something I want to ask. Like immediately, I was going like, "Is this some sort of take on London? Because that's the giant Ferris wheel over there."
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
structures in some of the later pages, and then it's confirmed that like this was our world. I'm seeing structures that look like the Sydney Opera House, things that look like Sri Lankan temples in the background. So there are all these cultural influences, but mainly I'm looking at the Thames and London and the Ferris Big Ben you can see there on the cover.
Yeah, it is London. It is London, and that is because they call the Ferris wheel, they call it the London Eye. That's why I draw a big eye. It's the same scale. Yeah.
And what's so funny is I love this eye so much. I didn't like in all the prompts of what this world would be like. I did not write the words, and there's a giant eyeball sitting there. And you do it, and I loved it. And I added a scene in the book about the eye. I just loved it so much. That's something you'll never see in the real world. And then literally the Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Sphere showed up, and there's a giant eyeball staring at everybody. So we now have a city that has a giant eyeball staring at everybody.
And it's so neat because you have like this organic, techno-organic, and this stone masonry, but at the same time you got like giant koya with teeth with like London double-decker buses on the back of. Like, it's just so flipping like good. Like your eye never gets tired of finding things. And I know I'm going to be going over this again and again and again to see what other little treasures I can find in the pages.
And you absolutely can, because I do all the time. I find stuff all the time.
Well, I have to say that I appreciate that very much. Oof. And Bracy, you hit all the references right on the head. Those are my heroes, all of them. Otomo, Toriyama, Jeff Darrow, and Moebius, of course. I mean, major references for me.
Well, this page right here is such a good example because there's like certain like styles of comic book artists, not just the style of the art themselves, but the artists themselves. And my buddy Matt Fraction and I were just doing an event here in Portland, and Matt worked with Andre before I did years ago at Marvel, and he said he had the same reaction to Andre's work. He was like, "Oh man, I love this guy's stuff." And they worked on an Age of Ultron one shot, and we know as writers that with like robots and ninjas, you ask for 100 and hope you get like 5, right? Like that's it's comics. You get as many as you can get. A lot of silhouettes, a lot of shoulder, a lot of tricks to make a crowd look like a crowd. But then every once in a while, you run into an artist like Andre who's going to draw all the robots and all the ninjas and all the people. And this is a perfect example where scale becomes an enormous part of the storytelling. And it is, for our writers, it is a dream. Also, the trick for me is to get out of the way as much as possible so the story can be told visually like it is being told. So, and it's a different way to read comics. There's a bunch of comics like this where the story is not only being told visually, but the visuals are the story as well. And you mentioned G.F. Darrow. That was one of my inspirations, not of G.F. Darrow, but I soon realized that I was, because I'd grown up when Frank Miller introduced G.F. Darrow to us in Hardboiled and Big Guy and Rusty Robot. We're of that age, right? So Frank meant everything to me, and everything he did meant everything to me. And when he introduced us to the brilliance of G.F. Darrow, I read every article about their collaboration and how they met each other. And Frank said that he realized that his job was to get out of the way and to inspire this experience for people to have, just to like prompt it. And I used that influence to write for Andre, to like prompt Andre towards every choices that he made. And I just, so not only is the influence of Darrow in the work itself, but the actual existence of G.F. Darrow and his collaborations influenced our collaboration.
I guess I've got to ask the question there, because I read in an interview that Jeff actually is not fond of drawing gigantic crowds and buildings, but he's become so famous for it. He's kind of gotten typecast for doing that. He always gets those projects. And I tell you, I'll wait a year or 2 years for one of his projects because I know exactly what I'm going to get. Andre, is it like that for you? Is this like or are you just so invested in this? Like, give me thousands of people draw. I'm fine with that.
No. I never think like that. For
Right,
me, it's always about what the story needs.
Mhm.
Like in this case, I think that the type of drawings that I'm doing here, it's what this story needed for. So it's like the big crowds, like these immense epic battle scenes. I don't think ever. I know that I am a bit typecast like that, and when people, not me and Brian, because me and Brian are doing an original book, but before when I was working for Marvel, and even now when people ask me for a cover, they will mostly, I know what that they expect something like this. I know they expect a city. I know they expect big perspective and crowds or something like that. I know it's a bit like Geoff Darrow in that aspect. And if I get a cover from Geoff, I know that it's probably going to be something like that, like with 100 characters fighting. It is what it is. But when it comes to, I'm working on original stories just for the past now almost 5 years only. And my interest only is just to create towards what the story really asks for. So I don't, for example, I don't want to draw a double page spread so I can sell it later. I want to draw it because it's what the story needs. And for example, I did another book that's very, very different from this, between book 1 and then I did book 2 and 3 back to back of Phenomena, and in the middle I did a book called The Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, which is a crime book. It has no spreads. It has nothing like this. It doesn't look like this at all, because it was a crime book with a small scale story with one guy, So it was like a completely different interpretation from the tools that I have. I still employ the perspective and the anatomy, but in a different way. So for me, like I trust people that I work with, like Brian or Rick Remender, for example, to go for the story, because I know that's what they want. And with Brian, it was like this. Brian was not asking me a crowd for the sake of having me drawing these things. He was asking for this type of stuff because that's the type of story that we're telling.
So I want to ask you, Andre. Wait a minute, I gotta find out here, because as the artist, are you a heavy metal fan? Because this looks like many mosh pits that I've been to.
Yeah.
I do like heavy metal.
Have you been to concerts? I mean, I just kind of see the influence of this
No.
being like a Lamb of God, the wall of death right here.
Well, you know what you mean.
Because I look at things like this, like you're playing in a band with someone who can rip a guitar solo.
Yeah.
And so, it's not the only thing you want, but you certainly want to make room for the guitar solo, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what this is for sure.
Yeah, but then more beautiful.
Metal, immediately, like my first viewing of the cover, and I'm flashing back to the 80s when I first discovered heavy metal over here, or forgive me if I say this improperly, but Metal Hurlant, which introduced to European artists, where I saw this, and I saw comic strips like a Druna or a Din, just all those wonderful comics, and it has that particular styling to it with the fine line work, whereas here in America we tend to do a lot of bolder line work around our comics to give it some weight. And it's so captivating to see it. Oh, look at that, Space Battleship Yamato. Like right there.
Oh my God. I saw that in cosplay over the course of the weekend. Somebody had a big model of it playing the music from the show, dressed as the pilot. I mean, okay, guys, let me put this again on the big screen so you could appreciate the gorgeousness of this. And yeah, Andrea, was that your inspiration behind this, son? I mean, you're a fan of that, like the Robotech, the manga? No?
Yeah, among other things, that was one of it. Yes.
Yeah,
for the front,
beautiful.
for the front of the ship. I was thinking of that. Yes.
I love the little Easter eggs like that, and the conning tower is also very reminiscent of it. But of course, it doesn't have all the cannons up on top. But so one of the things you guys mentioned is really neat, that because this is the second volume, you've laid down the foundation, and now Brian, you can really start expanding the world. Like, you've got the foundational world building, and now like the two of you can really go crazy. And once you've got that groundwork made, like you can just build like a cathedral of world building on top of all this.
Well, we were very inspired by the second chapters of trilogies that worked. I mean, obviously for people of our age, Empire Strikes Back is one of the greatest examples of, Star Wars got built, and then there was time to do another chapter, and they just built all new stuff. They it's all within the realm of the thing, but they didn't repeat themselves. Like, you're immediately on the Hoth planet, and there's all the costumes are redesigned. Everything was new and different and more dangerous and a little darker, and the stakes were higher. And
Uh-oh. Brian froze up on us.
Yeah. Well, Brian was going for the sequel that tops the original thing, so it can get
I don't know if I can.
Things like.
He's
You're back.
Okay, sorry, that was me. I'm sorry. I'm.
Yeah, you were going on about the it's a little bit grittier, a little bit darker, and you're building.
Yeah, no, we.
Hey, look at it! Look at it there. What I was talking about.
Beautiful.
Yeah, second chapters are always a chance to go deeper, and when when you're watching something and they do a second chapter and it's just a repeat of the first one, they're too scared to go anywhere else. They you can tell when they're like, oh, we don't know why you like this, so we'll just do it again. We knew what was special about it and what we had, and we knew that we could take each one of these chapters and build something special and new. So some people will read this and not have read the first one. So we want to be able to make sure for people who just picked this up cold off the bookshelf, it's there for them.
Well, this is precisely me. This is my first exposure to the story, and I'm hooked in right away. I can't wait to get the previous volume, and I'm eager for the next volume. And I love the fact that, everything you're doing is in service of the story. Andre's already mentioned, you give him the room to do what he needs to do to serve the story. And I like that you're just going for it, because, like you said, too many people play it safe, and then you have stagnation, which leads to drop off.
Mm-hmm.
Or just spinning wheels. We've seen it all the time. And I've recently had that with a couple of my favorite franchises where I'm like, oh, you're just going to do that again. You're not going to do anything new with it. And I often, just my own personal taste, I like a big swing instead of a little swing. Even if the big swing doesn't go exactly where I may have wanted it to go. Like, I'm watching Fallout on Amazon right now, and it's just big swing after big swing, and it's just so charming to me. I just absolutely love it, and I feel we did the same thing here.
So,
well,
Brian,
as an author, you really want to, I think, to have things have consequences, and that will bring changes to the story. You will need to break a few of your toys. So that's I think that's what we did, and I think that's when you get the best type of stories. It's the ones that make you care. That we all remember that TV show that ran for 7 seasons, but in the first couple of episodes, that was a character that was a lot of fun, and they killed him. And and you get a warning from that show, and the show is never the same, and you always remember that
Spoiler
character.
alert.
You want that to happen with your stories, and you want to break some of the toys and that things matter, so that the story in the end matters to something.
One of the joys about my career is that I've had long periods of time with characters that people know. Like I was on Spider-Man longer than anyone will ever be on Spider-Man, and it gives you the opportunity to try new things with the characters. Like, they take these big swings, and even the existence of Miles Morales is a huge swing on that book.
It is
that no one was asking for. So I have been rewarded greatly for trying to take big swings. So I'm kind of addicted to it a little bit. When we're doing create your own, it just feels like that's your obligation. Don't be boring. Don't be as bold as you can. You're not going to get another chance.
It is Babe Ruth Bendis in the building. I love it. I mean,
that is the freedom you get as you're doing your own thing here. And I think it's only because you guys were doing that reboot universe, the Ultimate Universe, that you were allowed to do that. Because if you'd have been in 616, you'd have been so constrained in what you could have done with Spider-Man there.
Depends on who was running the show and what kind of show they're running, but there's been times where both Marvel and DC can be very, very bold in their choices and decision making, and other times where they're not in the mood. That's not what they're in the mood for. I was lucky that I was at Marvel and DC at a time where their bold was on the table. Please do something cool and fun. So even our Avengers run, Every year we got to take an enormous swing, and I think about that all the time when we're working on Phenomena. That the reaction from comic fans when you take a big swing, even people who don't like the swing, they appreciate an attempt at a swing. Like you're really trying to give it something for your money. So I think about it all the time.
This is a super bang for your buck on this one, but there's a particular character I do connect with, Brian, and that is Spike. There is some stuff going on here when they try to praise him, for example, and he feels a type of way. I mean, to you, who is Spike? Where did you make Spike from? Who is Spike to you?
So yeah, well, as we delve further into the phenomena, we feel that something happened to the world, like something happened to the world that involves maybe other worlds and other dimensions. Then there might be some kind of incursion that took place, and characters like Spike don't belong here, but are here now. And so what we've met is Spike is someone, and I'm not to spoil for the third book, but we're going to find out exactly what Spike's journey is.
Oh, I can't wait.
But he is, by all definition, a reluctant hero trying to kind of regain his footing post-phenomena. And the meeting of these two children, we will discover, is a huge part of his journey back to who he is. And again, not to spoil the third book, but you're going to get to find out exactly who he was, why he's here, and what he's capable of. But right now, this relationship, with every page, we get to meet people who used to know him. Like in the second book, we meet one of his peers, and you find out, he was part of a team. He has friends and a team and a family. He's not mentioned them. Okay, now we're meeting one of them, and he has a completely different perspective on who Spike is, including what his name is. So we find out that Spike is living a completely different life now than he did prior to Phenomena, and we're going to find out everything that happened to him.
I can't wait.
About these characters, you just from looking at it from the writing perspective, my first experience with these characters, and they're super engaging in the magical way of going to a Studio Ghibli film. You're just dialed right in right away. And Spike he's alien, he's otherworldly, but he's got this mystery about him, and you have the wonderful conflict between the two children and their personalities. And now we're getting not just hints about what's going to come up with Spike, but now that we're in Matilda's story, we're getting her backstory in this second chapter and seeing what makes her tick. And it's all been incredibly fascinating. And I'm just hungry for more all the time. That each page, just yep, got to get to the next page. Got to get to the next page. I want to know what's happening next.
And at the same time, I think a part of it, and I know that the book is out and we've had this reaction from readers, it's a mixture of, you want to find out what happens next, and at the same time, you don't want to turn the page because you're looking at this. You can stare at this for 10 minutes.
You can't, and this is the thing that freaks me out.
Yeah, I stared at it for a little bit more than 10 minutes. I'll tell you what.
It's been my screensaver for a year and a half. So I literally stared at like it's a map of our world.
Oh my god,
bro. I mean, you got flying fish over here. You got an eyeball staring at the city. I mean, what is going on? This is bugged out. I mean, would I want to take a flying fish? Do they smell like fish from in their air? With the
don't you want to get on that fish?
Questions.
I want to get on that fish.
I want to get on that fish.
Do aerial?
I draw this stuff like this is a photograph of London. Like all the major landmarks are here. And then I sketch it out, and then I start adding the little details and changing the things until I make it fantastical enough. I'd say that's usually the process on something like this.
Let them appreciate that, folks. Look at this gorgeous page. Look at every single detail, and again, the black and white, the grayscale, all this. This is what I love. Again, this is what I got first involved in as a collector. The black and white stuff. And man, let me tell you that you guys are like murdering the game right now. I'm sad that you want to end this at 3.
Oh no! We're to be published and to have 3 volumes is
okay.
measure. Well, like if the world landed in a way where we get to do more, we'd happily do so. but just having done this project again, me and Andre have been doing this since pre-pandemic. We've been working on this for years and years. So this is an enormous chapter in our life.
It take you to draw this book, and are you doing?
I drew books. Sorry.
Are you doing this all traditionally, or is your Zipatone as well? Is that done in the computer? Or are you putting down the filming?
The Zipatone is on computer. I do put the film on commissions. I started after starting Phenomena, actually. I was really interested on it more and more. But not for practical reasons, I do it on the computer. Everything else, like it's pencil and inks here. Nowadays, I'm doing, for volume 3 and for everything else ever since, I'm doing all pencils digital, just because it's faster. And I really... The pencils for me is just a construction. There are no final pencils per se, because I'm always an inker. Then I print it out and I ink. So everything is done ink traditionally, at least that. And books 2 and 3 took me 1 year and 6 months, I think, something like that.
That's still
I worked.
Considering how many pages are in these books.
Oh, and by the way, if you want, Andre has been very generous in filming his process. You can go to his Instagram account or mine.
There he goes, selling the gram right there. You want to follow Andre? Go to Twitter everywhere, Erdner11. You want to follow Brian? Go on the socials at Brian M Bendis.
But I'm not just selling the gram. I have heard from my students and our peers who watch Andre draw in both awe and with a kind of a Bob Ross kind of vibe. Like it really is relaxing and inspiring at the same time to watch him do his thing.
Hey, Brian, I'll chip in. Let's get him a paint panel and a wig, and let's have him do that. It'll be Andre Ross for a night. You know what I mean?
By the way, that ain't a bad social media bit, and we may end up doing that.
Wait, Jeff, because we do have fans that are asking questions. Let me just bring one up real quick, because Awesome Source Radio, Brian Adam, he's actually vision impaired, and he's asking, is there any chance the series could be turned into an audiobook?
Well, if you're vision impaired, I will say I listen to a ton of podcasts and audiobooks, as does Andre while he's drawing. So we can recommend a ton of stuff for you if you're looking for it. I listen to an enormous amount of comedy podcasts that are just, we're in a revolution right now. But I would say that in this book particularly, the visuals are such a huge part of it that I don't think of it in that way. But meanwhile, we'll go to the Andy Daly Project, go to Comedy Bang Bang World, go to Newcomers, the Laura Lapkus. There is incredible podcast.
And he has one other thing to say to you, that he uses the microphone, so I don't know what the rest is. He's want to thank, what's up, Brian? Thank you for your entire body of work.
Thank you.
It saved and changed my life for the better. Thank you. He goes.
Thank you so much. Well, head over. You know what? Head over to Jinx World. We've been running classes and videos that are very audio friendly, just about craft and comics and people making stuff. Andre's on there. A bunch of them are free. You can just listen to my friends talk about how they make their comics. So
and this is for Andre. Apparently, you've scared one of our fans over here. Worships have always frightened me, and you have terrified him with your worship.
Good. That's what we want, to make people feel things.
I mean, of course, we want them to feel things. And this is again, I showed it before. This is how you got to follow everybody, and make it happen. The links are below in the show notes and all. But guys, man, okay, so we got this book 2 out now, right? How much time are we going to give this book to be out in the market before you break our hearts and tell us what's going to be popping off with book 3? Because again, I'm seeing things. I'm like, oh man, again, folks, when you read this, I'm telling you, you're gonna grab your heart, because I mean, please don't do what I'm thinking you might do, but whatever. I'm just saying.
Well, the third book, not to spoil the second book, but the second book is its own adventure from beginning to end, and you find out a lot, including what happens in Matilde, and then and what her journey is in front of her. And then by the end of it, they not to spoil, whoever's left at the end of the book is headed towards Bolden's adventure. And Bolden also, like Matilde, had run away from his scenario and we find out that he ran away from what might be the true heart of darkness of the phenomena, like where the mysteries really took place. And he may be a cornerstone character in all of the mystery of the phenomena. And so they're going to head towards that. And I will say, boy, oh boy, I know I'm saying about book 2, but wait till you see what he did in book 3. Holy
Oh
Lord.
my God.
Holy
I mean,
Lord.
you know, with Andre's smile right there, you know, that's a villainous
You know
smile
why?
that says,
No.
Espera, I'm going to give you the Wepppaaaaa. I love it.
The truth is that I it's weird for me to only now I'm coming to terms with the fact that we did 2 books, because while we were working on book 2 and 3, when I finished 3, that's when book 2 came out. So like for me, it's all, I did them back to back, but we never stopped working on it. And like for me, until the launch of 2, I saw it as just one big project, and now we get to launch one book, and then, you know, in a few months we will get to the third one, I'm sorry, and it's going to be like a book that we did that it almost feels like we didn't do it, because we did 2 and 3 and then 2 came out.
Oh, we
so
did
it
it.
like, but I did it, yeah.
No, it was a lot of work. No, but
Yeah.
I will say part of what you're hearing out of Andre and myself is that both of us are we've been working in mainstream comics, and mainstream comics come out once a month. They come out whether we're finished or not, they're shipping on time. And so we've, you know, and I personally have been on that monthly comic hamster wheel, working multiple titles on that hamster wheel for a very long time. So I'm used to, you're working on something and it comes out almost while you're still working on it. It really feels like it's still in your heart as it ships. Whereas this, we get to have a different relationship. We get to finish it and consider it and put it all together and talk amongst ourselves and then release it into the world. And it's made with the same amount of love. It's just a completely different emotional state for us as creators. So, and having done it one way for so long, this new experience in this kind of new publishing arena that we find ourselves in, it's delightful and surprising.
I love that. All right, Bracy, I'm pretty sure you have a question, because I know you're an independent creator. So let's have just 2 more questions here. But before that, like, I just need to know. Okay, you're saying that, you know, this kind of new, free, open space, if you will, right? You know, in publishing as a creator. I mean, what would you say is the number one highlight of it for you?
Oh, just the audience is. I think about this a lot. Like, in this world we live in, we all live in it, where almost every story that people have ever told each other is available for free somewhere. Like every movie, every book, every comic, every song, everything you can think of is out there. Yet still, people are buying new stories. They're like literally avidly looking to independent comics and graphic novels for something else. And I think about, what are they looking for that they're not seeing? They're looking for a new perspective, a new relationship to genre, a new relationship to the art form. Just tell me a story I can't find anywhere else. That's kind of what they're looking for us.
Woo!
So we like, I and going back to my years on Spider-Man, where anytime like with great power comes great responsibility, as soon as you figure out that's your responsibility to tell a story that people haven't seen before, then you have to do it. You have to give them what.
And on this format of like working straight to a graphic novel, it allows you a certain flexibility that you don't have. Like Brian was saying, when you're doing 20 pages a month and you need to have some kind of beginning, middle, and end to every 20 pages, you know, that puts a certain pressure on sequences to end and move to the next thing. So not on phenomenon like we get to do 40-page sequences, for example, because that's, you know, you get to really get on a flow and let the story carry that sequence until its end, and you don't have the pressure to finish it up because you need to do the 20 pages. So you get a different type of storytelling, and I think we explore that well with the 3 volumes that we have already done.
It's all we've been thinking about. Yep.
Yeah.
So from my perspective here, one thing I love this so much because I remember when Billy Tucci first hit the market, and the work was so extraordinary. I was like, you know, I'll wait, I'll hang out, and I'm glad to see that this idea has caught on now that the sort of markets have changed as far as comic books, and people are looking for the new thing. And man, talk about a new thing! This is amazing. So for you as the generator of the idea, the world builder, one of the things I appreciate is good dialogue, and in this case, you have created your own world of slang, which always adds this whole extra level. I appreciate it, like in Stephen King's The Dark Tower, with the aliens, the Marines saying things like "Stay frosty," and we see this, the knock knots comes up a lot, and all these cool little pieces of slang. So, is this relational to cultures here, and you sort of try to progress them forward, or how do you come about with that sort of thing?
Thank you for saying that. It is a really difficult process because all those examples that you've just listed, there's also a very grading examples of like, all right already with the fancy language. So it's for me, and it's again just personal taste. A little goes a long way. And making sure that I understood where that new language came from. I have obviously been studying languages my whole life, and where words come from and what. And it's fascinating. Like some words come into the culture and some words leave the culture, and like they just have a moment of their time. And we're old enough to have seen some of that come and go in our lifetime, and it's fascinating. So creating new ideas, I just have to know where they came from. And I have to know honestly what the kids are talking about. So
so you don't say funky fresh no more.
No, by the way, that is also something I learned from Marvel and DC, that if you create your own swear words, they can't edit you.
Hey, there you go. Hey,
back in the late 70s, early 80s, and then this is part of the magic of Tolkien and Frank Herbert, who also studied linguistics, and you see it translated into their work, and it's so endearing to me to see it being carried forward in comics like this. It's not something you see that often. As you said, some people just carry it way too far.
No, but I've been very inspired. A lot of the books that inspired this modern, like you look at Marjorie and Sana's book Monstrous or Saga. There's so many examples of people world building visually and verbally, and just it's very insular and inspiring. And there, comics, some of this stuff, honestly, comics does better than anybody. It just the best way to build the world is in a graphic novel like this. Just is.
Agreed. 100. All right, Bracy, one last question.
Yeah, what was that? I didn't see it.
Oh, I have so many swirling questions. I wish we could just spin all together. But I'm going to go back to you again, Brian, because I gushed all over Andre the first half of this, just going gaga.
You're the one that feel jealous.
Yeah, I'm an artist myself, so of course I'm going to kind of lose my mind over that. But
I draw too, and I know I can't do what he's doing. It's a beautiful feeling. It's both freeing and maddening, but it's.
Yeah, please continue. All of you.
It's like, por favor.
I also enjoy the craft of writing my small way. So in deference to what you say, I'm not as accomplished as somebody like you, but I see these things, and there's a very European quality to the way this is structured. And because I grew up reading heavy metal, it's very apparent to me where this. I wonder if like some Americans will have trouble following the flow because we're used to having a sort of linear flow, but then you have these sort of almost like breaks in continuity. And I would go back a page or two, it's like make sure I was getting it right, but it's like, yeah, this feels very Euro style to me. Was that intentional?
I'm a big fan of like Enki Bilal. There's like a lot of European graphic. I mean, we talk about Mobius, and there's all kinds of, but Bilal and that era of heavy metal and that era of sci-fi, European sci-fi, big deal for me. And not just the sci-fi that looks like people like live in it. They're making food and bathing, and there's dirt on the floor. Like people like live in that world. I just love it so much, and that was definitely one of the inspirations. And as you know, not to be braggy, but this job lets me travel the world, and I get to go to a lot of places. I was just in Belgium when we were celebrating the first volume in French, and I was just in Abu Dhabi, and then you meet people from all over the world, completely different cultures, but there's a uniting effect that visual storytelling has, that people like, it's more global and worldwide. And even if like, oh, this is European flavored or American flavored or manga flavored, it becomes, it's been decades of this, of mixing and matching and introducing each other to each other's cultures. So we're in a space now, particularly with young readers, they don't see anything but of the world culture. Like, it's just all influence, and it's all spilled all over each other. Webtoons is a big part of that too, where the influences get mixed and matched over years and years and years, where people, the blender is on high, and here we are. So I look at it for our perspective, is that we have to reach to that level of what the audience now sees as our world culture. I love it.
I like it. Comics are the true melting pot.
It really is. I've just experienced this. I just had the most warm. I had 3 conventions this year: Baltimore, Abu Dhabi, and Belgium. Each of them more magical than the next, more inspiring than the next, and each of them felt so similar in that the energy of how everyone felt about what was going on around them was magical. And we were at Baltimore. People were at the Baltimore Comic-Con. Other creators were looking at each other going, what's going on here? Like, it was magical. Like, everyone just loved. And I think part of it was we were stuck in the pandemic, listening to pandemic internet voices. And you think that's what the internet, the industry turned into. And you're like, no, that's always there. But when you see everyone together celebrating story at the highest level and no judgment, everyone just loves what they love. It is beautiful, and it's global, and we're so happy to be part of it.
That's what we did.
Absolutely a reflection of how I feel about all of that.
And that's what we did this weekend, Brian, at C2E2. My man Victory and Comic Crew helped, and a whole bunch of other folks. Comics Wellspring helped bring the Heroic Awards, the first ever independent comic book awards, celebrating independent creators.
Awesome.
So the dopest statue you'll ever see in your life. All right, I mean,
awesome.
it makes Oscar cry. So a big shout out. We have amazing winners, and hopefully be able to get eyes on amazing independent creators. As you said, it's a wonderful journey. There's so many wonderful books out there, and many of them are not getting the notice that they deserve. It's a tough market. It absolutely is. But if we can help in any way, we're happy to do so. Check out Heroic Awards. It's live on Comic Crusaders for the live show.
Yeah, I didn't know about it. I love C2E2. Boy, I've had some of my greatest memories of my whole career happen in Chicago.
Oh yeah, man. Me too. Apparently one of my guys was late because there was a gang shootout on the highway. What a great memory.
All right. I meant like I'm only
playing. I know.
My pal Ed Brubaker is actually staying with us right now as he's prepping his criminal show on Amazon.
Ooh,
and he was writing Batman when I was writing Daredevil, and I tried to get a Batman Daredevil crossover going at C2E2, and it was not. DC was not interested, and
why not?
That's
Batman Spawn, in my opinion. Man, I love Spawn. I'm a Spawn fan, but to do a Batman Daredevil, I think that's more on the money.
Oh no, we thought so too. And me and Ed had come up together, and we're really good friends, and we found ourselves on Daredevil and Batman. We couldn't believe it. So we're like, hey, let's do a crossover. And Marvel said yes. Joe Quesada said yes.
Yo.
And he said no. This is like 2003, 2000.
Oh, what a heartbreak. You have broken many fans' hearts right now, because that would have been phenomenal. I mean,
Joe Quesada, I tell you what, that man. It's funny, isn't it? Because we got usually people think that artists are they can't do the right thing when they run comics. But if you look at a guy like Joe Quesada, that's the one. Marvel exists. It owes it to him, I think, right now.
Yeah.
The things that he did, the ideas that he had, and that he led to a good ending, that's something.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, at C2E2, I in hubris, I went to my panel and try to get the fans involved in getting this Daredevil Batman story going. And I
public pressure.
complete chaos. People were yelling and screaming, and they all thought it was like a wrestling.
It became a bar fight. You know what?
Using public pressure.
You know what's happening right now? DC is controlling our internet, preventing him from saying this.
Sorry about that, guys.
Is DC hacking your internet?
Yes, I don't know. This truth will not get out. Anyway, I apologize.
I love it. No, you see, this is awesome. We got a dope scoop here.
You were doing the Snyder Cut promotion before they had the Snyder Cut promotion.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, guys, I don't want to take too much more of your time, but you guys have been amazing. Folks, this is what you got to do. These are two amazing creators. This book is absolutely phenomenal. It is phenomena. Book 2. I mean, it is amazing. It's beautiful art, great story. Listen, Omega read through that with excitement, couldn't put it down. My landlord was not going to pick up the rent, and I was like, wait, right before the show, like, damn, I gotta finish this page. You crazy? And look at the pictures with that freaky ass eye that I can't keep my eye off of. You see what you did to me? Hey. All right. So with that, again, follow my man Brian all over the socials at Brian M Bendis. You can follow Andrea on Twitter at ERDNA numero 11. All right. And of course, you get your copy of Phenomenal Book 2. Go visit Abrams Books today. It is available. Go spend. I know y'all got your tax returns. Don't give me no BS. Go spend that money so that way you could get Book 3 going. And with that, I'm Omega, Brian Bendis, Andrea Lima Araujo, Bracy. Hasta la próxima, mi gente. Much love. Wepppaaaaa.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.shop and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.